minded Democrats.
Because, I mean, imagine if what Trump is doing to them right now, like just literally blatantly breaking the law, not answering any subpoenas, anything like that. If Trump was doing to, if a Democratic president was doing to the Republicans what the Trump is doing to the Democrats right now, like he would be impeached already. Like if Barack Obama decided to ignore like 5 subpoenas, like he would be out the door because the Democrats would turn on it. Like it's just that simple. Um, and I really do get what you're saying. I mean, even I am starting to get a little bit annoyed about the Democrats not really just pushing on this because like this kind of Trump because I was more anti-impeachment minded, but this kind of action was really eye-opening and kind of made me a little bit kind of pissed off, to be honest.
Sure. I mean, and it helped that Mueller gave that surprise public statement a few days ago. You could see a lot of Democratic lawmakers come out in favor of an inquiry into impeachment after Mueller made those statements. So, I'm hoping that there's just going to be more of that in the coming weeks. And at some point, Nancy Pelosi is not going to be able to hold back the floodgates, and she's going to have to open
Yeah.
at least an inquiry.
What do you think some of like the most significant thing Robert Mueller said in that press conference was? I mean, if I'm asking too narrow of a question, you can't obviously expand on them. Maybe like a few things, but like some of those significant things that he said in
I
the press conference
think,
that really changed it.
yeah, yeah. Well, like you mentioned, that constituent of Justin Amash, who was a Republican, who thought that Trump was exonerated on all things, not just the collusion piece, but uh, obstruction of justice as well. And for her to hear from Justin Amash, and I think a lot of other Republicans who are in the right wing media bubble, to hear Mueller come out and say something to the effect that if we had found no evidence that President Trump obstructed justice, we would have exonerated him. But as but we did find evidence, and so we can't do that. You know, in other words, he's dancing around an accusation without actually accusing him. He's using like a double negative to accuse him. And I think that was probably a huge eye opener for a lot of Republicans anyway, who hadn't heard that. In fact, I saw a clip that was on MSNBC of a Fox News broadcast where Brett Baier commented on that line by Mueller, and he said that was something that wasn't in the Mueller report. And he was wrong. It was in the Mueller report.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show even the so-called serious news people at Fox didn't seem to read the report very carefully themselves. And so the people who watch Fox don't know this stuff.
And I mean, if they
So
didn't
I
read the
think,
report, like you can only imagine how many Americans didn't read the report.
of course, but
Yeah.
so the way Americans are going to get their news is by, tuning into their broadcast of choice, and if they're not hearing these things from Fox News, then they're not hearing them at all. And so that's why it takes a big event like Mueller coming out and making public statements, and even that's what it takes for the Fox News people to explain what he said, and some of these things appear to even be news to them, which is I find quite appalling.
Yeah, I mean, him giving the kind of the Cliff Notes summary of the report for us to easily digest, I think was very, very helpful to the overall cause here. So, yeah, Democrats kind of had dueling messages on this. They highlighted the dilemma of confronting the party's congressional leaders and presidential hopefuls, which is how to balance the demands of this base. And it's definitely going to be tough. So you have Elizabeth Warren. She electrified the crowd with a fiery address that appeared to take a swipe at former VP Joe Biden, who did not attend. 3 of the candidates are scheduled to speak Sunday, rounding out the large gathering, largest yet of 2020 presidential contenders to this date. Among activists, fury with Trump reached the boiling point after Mueller reiterated Wednesday that he could not clear the president of obstructing justice in the probe of Russian interference in the 2016 election. Trump's defiant attitude towards congressional oversight, as I said, stoked further anger. Because like the idea of Democrats not like raising hell about that, and like they just don't use oversight to really political purposes. The Republicans still accuse them of using oversight to political purposes anyway. So, I mean, honestly, why not use oversight to political purposes? Like, it's going to happen either way.
Right. I mean, and I think Pelosi's been very honest and open about the reason why they're doing oversight, and it's to basically educate the American people. It's to change the tide of the polls on impeachment. I think she would be happy to impeach the president if the American people demanded it. And I don't know what kind of poll number she's after. Probably somewhere in the mid 60s, I would think. And there has to be political pressure at that point on Republicans as well, particularly Republicans in the Senate. So, I think she's very open to it, but she's very, very cautious. I think too cautious, but, she probably knows better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, she probably does get some idea, but I mean, do I trust Nancy Pelosi completely? I mean, no, I just don't. Like, I don't think she has, honestly, the best of, like, really the political instincts out there, so we could differ on that. But what I do want to, I do think that I am kind of glad that she didn't exactly just jump into it, because I think this report definitely could have turned some tides here. Pelosi and her top lieutenants are seeking again to persuade Democrats that the best action is to stay the course they've charted, which is to continue to investigate Trump and rely on the courts to intervene when they're stonewalled by the administration. Our investigations are breaking through Trump's administration cover-ups to get the truth. You want the truth for the American people, as you've noted to recent court victories in Mueller's public statement. Yeah, so I mean, there was still, even as she said that, there was some chance to impeach. Yeah, and like she's always talking about like, the San Francisco values of these people. I really think you just gotta come in and do this at some point or another. Yeah, she said she believes no one is above the law, not even the president, which, I mean, so far he has been to this point. On Friday, Warren unveiled a new plan to ensure a sitting president can be indicted on a charge of criminal conduct. Did you see that plan at all? Like, what did you think about that plan? A sitting president can be indicted on a charge of criminal conduct. To me, this just makes sense.
Who said this?
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. Well, it's interesting. I think Mueller, in his public statement, said that he mentioned the OLC guidelines that said you can't indict a president, and I think he made some kind of comment that it was also unconstitutional or something like that, which I think isn't quite right. I don't think that the Supreme Court has ever weighed in on this, on its constitutionality. I mean, the precedent has been the Watergate investigations, and the counsel in the Justice Department decided that they should not indict a sitting president, and for pretty good reasons, right? But that hasn't been decided constitutionally, as far as I'm concerned, and I think a lot of legal scholars, at least the ones that appear on MSNBC, don't agree with that. They think it's still an open question. And I think Pelosi is aware of that too, because I think in some interview she had, she mentioned something to that effect. So, I mean, Elizabeth Warren, of course, is really trying to fire up the liberal side of the party, and so she's making these statements, and I think they're accurate. But I think the country is very, very confused on this issue about whether a sitting president can be indicted or not. If you're not really paying close attention, it's just mass confusion.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of a jumble of facts and information that, I mean, definitely at least an impeachment inquiry would sort out to some degree, which is very, very, it kind of adds to the case. Honestly, I think this is you have a little bit of movement on this. I have to say, you kind of pushed me in the impeachment direction on this front. So yeah, but I mean, honestly, could very easily be swayed back. That's the thing. All right, we are now going to turn tides to the White House, see what he is up to. He's imposing tariffs on Mexico. President Donald Trump apparently is deadly serious about his threat to impose a 5% tariff on all goods from Mexico over his concerns of illegal immigration, saying, quote, he's absolutely deadly serious. This is Mulvaney's quote from Fox News Sunday. I fully expect these tariffs to go on at least the 5% level on June 10th. Trump last week tweeted the United States would impose a 5% tariff on all goods from Mexico until such time as illegal migrants coming through Mexico and into our country stop. Mulvaney doubled down on the timeline, explaining for months White House has been talking about an emergent situation at the U.S. border. The president tweeted last week the tariff would gradually increase until the illegal immigration problem is remedied. 15% on July 1st. August would be 20%. September would be 25%. 20% on September 1st and 25% by October. So it's pretty much increasing by increments of 5% every month. The reason we're doing things people don't expect is that we are facing things at the border we've never experienced before. We're using extraordinary tools because there is extraordinary circumstances that dictate those. There's definitely is extraordinary circumstances, people coming at the border really in unprecedented levels. Do you think this is the right reaction, though?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. When I first read this, I thought, he's just grasping at things. It reminded me of what he had done a couple of months ago when he threatened to actually close the border.
Yeah.
And that would snuff out all trade between the two countries. And of course, he backed down from that because that really was crazy. But this is almost as crazy because it's going to hurt the economies of both countries and
That's true.
pretty significantly.
Countries,
yeah. So, but he loves tariffs. It's not clear whether he really understands them. He still thinks that he's charging Mexico when he puts up tariffs, and when it's really just a tax on the American people. And of course, it will hurt Mexico as well because it raises the price of their goods, and then the U.S., given enough time, will try to find alternative markets for the same goods. But as a lot of economists have said, the economy between the U.S. and Mexico is so important and so large and so intertwined that it's going to be very difficult for the U.S. to find alternative, places to get the same goods that Mexico provides.
Yeah.
So I really can't see him following through on this. I think just as he did with the threat to close the border, I think he's going to back down on this too. But we will see.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's been times you can't just say he's obviously given credit. He's been very serious about the border, or maybe not so much credit, but he has been very serious about the border. But there's the thing he likes to do where he says, okay, we will follow. We're going to do this. We're going to pull troops out of Syria. We're going to pull troops out of Afghanistan. And then cooler heads prevail with stronger interests at play. For example, a lot of Trump's donors have vested interest in the economy succeeding. I know, like the Koch brothers, they ship a lot of goods as part of their business and how they make their millions and millions of dollars. Like, do you think they're not going to? I would assume they'll probably be picking up the phone at some point or another and saying, we can't have this happen. There's just too much gas for our economy, and we need to step this down. So, I mean, and I was kind of more at least convincing that he could do this, but that certainly is, in my opinion, I certainly see this as an option that will be worth looking at. So, Kevin McAleenan on board saying that as well. It will happen. And I mean, it is definitely very disturbing to see this probably happening because this is not only going to affect companies, like big companies, there is going to be a lot of real problems for workers, like raising the costs of goods for workers as well.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, we have about a week before June 10th, and as each day goes by, it'll be interesting to see how the market responds to this. if the market really believes that President Trump is serious about doing this, I think you're going to see some pretty down days in the next week.